Well, good afternoon, all. Welcome to the October Entrepreneur Speaker Series. I think we have set a record for global reach. We have a speaker from Australia, and I see Saba's on the call, so we have an attendee from Iran. I think we're almost circling the globe today. We have a really interesting program for you today that is tied to the meaning of the month of October to Cal Lutheran. This is our homecoming month. And in the past, we dedicated a weekend to homecoming and had a whole lot of events. And that was the end of it. And due to our extenuating circumstances, we've made all of October homecoming month. We've had activities all month in celebration of our alumni. And we are really fortunate today to have an Entrepreneur Speaker Series event that features a Cal Lutheran alum who is an entrepreneur and his partner who is in Australia. So there's a really interesting story here. Preston is in LA and Phil is in Melbourne. And the story of how they met is kind of interesting, and the story of this business they started that, as the title of the talk says, Technology Left Behind, is super interesting. So I'm going to let them talk about themselves. I won't read their biographies, but Preston Geeting and Phil Weinman, welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here.
Hi. So let's start with you, Preston. So let's start with your Cal Lutheran experience. When you were an alum and what you majored in and what Cal Lutheran was like, and then where you went from there and how you got to startup land.
Absolutely. I came into Cal Lu in 1998 and as a probably undecided major, and then quickly figured out that music major wasn't going to be my life. And so, my dad taught at Cal Lutheran, retired a few years ago in the music department. So I moved quickly over to business and thought, okay, that sounds like something that I can get my arms around and excites me. So just really enjoyed the B school classes. And then after a year, I thought it'd be a good idea to get an internship and really start getting my understanding of the business world, how it operates. So I picked up an internship at a public business, a packaging company, which I knew nothing about packaging. And the internship was sort of 45, 50 miles from Cal Lu, and they were really hard. This is back in the days when freeways were packed and it was hard to get there. So I used to drive to downtown LA, do my internship, really learn the business and understand how that industry worked in the business world, and then do my CLU classes in the afternoon. And did that for my time at Cal Lutheran with a little break to go to London and study abroad there, which was, again, just for international business and get my understanding of that. And then after I graduated in 2002, then I just jumped in full time. That same company offered me a full-time position, and I remember there's a professor, Hedrick, that recommended to the students. I was one of the members of the class, that for anybody who wanted to get a really good understanding of business, the best path is to do sales, and the best sales is to do something that's fully commissioned. So I thought, that sounds great. I've got an internship where that's a possibility. Seems like a good avenue for me. So I jumped into that full time and then kind of took that and grew very quickly in sales to the top of the business that I was in, and then parlayed that to jump into the leadership side, and then really get a high level view of how a public business works and operates, and then took it from there. After a certain point of time, I started getting a little restless. I guess that's in my nature, and I wanted to figure out how to fix things, right? How to make it better. I was always more on the technology end. In kind of my group, I was the youngest by a lot. So I tried to improve the business and take it a little further, technology speaking, and just found a lot of roadblocks as can be sometimes with public businesses, and that's what kind of led me to my connection with Phil. I met at a conference in Australia, and Phil was one of the keynote speakers in the conference, talking about what he does for a living, which is disruption. He's an entrepreneur, and I'd been a little frustrated in the public sector, and tried to figure out, what's the best path for my career. And when Phil started talking about disruption, it's like when the light went off, and I thought, okay, I never quite fully fit in. What he's saying just resonates with me, 1,000%. He's a guy I need to know. So if nothing else, I always try to made good connections with smart people, and he seemed like a smart guy. So I made a connection with him as soon as possible, and he and I just developed a friendship, which then led to talking business, explaining the industry, explaining my thoughts on how it could be disrupted, and and then we took it from there and decided to start a business together. So for me, this is my first jump from the business world into the entrepreneurial world. For Phil, he's been doing this for 40 years. So this Packform, which is our business, this is his 17th business that he started. His first one he did when he was in his early 20s, right out of university, and took that one. It was actually a packaging business, ironically enough. Grew that, and at a certain point, he was reaching roadblocks on growing the business, and realized he needed a technology platform or a software platform to scale the business. And this was in the 1980s. And Phil, jump in if I'm not giving all the right info here, but I like talking about you, so I figure you'll let me. So in the early 80s, he was a packaging business owner that saw a need for software to run the business, and he started developing the software to run his own business. And then, like a great entrepreneur, he saw the need for it and made a quick pivot and took that software business, and then within 2 years became the largest software company in Australia. And I know Phil's told me the stories about his early days with Bill Gates and kind of part of that world. And after a few years, he decided to sell that business for many hundreds of millions, and that was his first way in. And then from there, he's figured out the formula to disrupt industries and repeated it over and over. And I'm lucky enough to be number 17, where we partnered up together, and we're on to a good course in packaging.
17. I think that firmly makes you a serial entrepreneur. We need a new word for it. That's a lot of startups.
That's I don't know how the name came up, but that's what I'm called, a serial entrepreneur, which I'm not sure it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'll take it at this stage of my life. So I'll take it as a good thing.
Now, how did you two meet? So Preston, you're at this conference, and Phil, I'm assuming, is one of the featured speakers.
Uh-huh.
So how did you contact Phil? Did you just go up to him after the conference, or did you get in touch with him afterwards?
No, I mean, so it's kind of a typical story. Phil's up there talking about what he does. I find it fascinating. And as soon as he's done doing, and he did this as a favor to the managing director of the business, so he's in charge of the entire group. And as soon as Phil's done talking, he goes off stage, and I could see him getting coffee or something, and everyone goes into their comfortable groups and just talks to themselves. And I thought, are you guys crazy? I mean, this guy is this fascinating, and he's standing by himself. So I beelined it to him immediately and thought, I got to talk to him. He's something else. And so from there, I came up and we started talking about my background, me, the business, all that sort of stuff. And then we just made a connection. And then Phil, you had an interesting thing where you want to tell that story about how the follow-ups and.
You want to know how to be successful? Listen to this story. So I just was there as a favor. I knew I was wasting my time because I got on stage, and the first thing I said is, you're all going to be out of a job in 2 years unless you start your own business. And of course, everyone thought I was crazy. So they all switched off, and I didn't really care because I wasn't getting paid. I was doing it as a favor. And then Preston came up, and he said to me, I'd like you to be a mentor. And I said, no, I'm sort of past the stage. I'm retired for the 16th time. And I promised my wife I'm never going to work again. Anyway, I get back to the hotel room, and there's this beautiful bottle of wine, and it says, I can't thank you enough, Preston Geeting. And I thought, Preston Geeting sounds like from Gone with the Wind. I don't know. Good name. And I had no idea who he was, but I thought, this guy's pretty impressive. He sends me a bottle of wine. I thought it was the event coordinator that sent me that. Anyway, I get on a plane the next morning, fly back to my place, and my wife is waiting at the door, and she says, I got these flowers from some guy, Preston Geeting. I don't know, but he said, thank you for allowing your husband to come on this conference. He's changed the way I see the world, and I'd love him to mentor me. So, of course, what does my wife say? Mentor him. Anyone that can do that is impressive. And remember, I get a lot of people wanting to be me to mentor. So that's how it started. He worked his way into my wife's psyche for her to say, this is an unusual person. Anyone that follows up like that is someone you should be spending time with. And the truth is, I had no intention of working in the business until I was in India on holiday, where Preston, we had a few issues. And he said, I've left, I've started the business, and I just flew from India to America, and that's how the business all started. I had no intentions of actually working in it. So, so that's how we started, and that was just over 2.5 years ago. And it wasn't until a year ago that I've gone into this pretty well full time, and only because of its results so far.
So I just want to pause for a second. Students on this Zoom conference, you just got a crash course in how to network from a master.
Yes. And I can tell you, I would get on LinkedIn, maybe, I don't even look at my own LinkedIn anymore because I've got someone, I would get at least 20 a day, 30 a day, hey, we want you to help us. And I don't even look at it anymore. But the fact that he got through to me at a time when I was retired,
yeah,
and he got me back to work is exactly why this business is going the way it is. That's what you need.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's such a good example.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the business. Let's talk about Packform. What is most special about this business opportunity that Phil, you're willing to come back out of retirement for number 17, and Preston, you're willing to leave the corporate life to take this big risk?
Well, the best way is to start from today and work back. And I think Preston needs to be the person, he's involved day to day, even more than I am. But a year later, we've won the Stevie Awards for the Global Tech Startup of the Year. We've won the Stevie Awards for the Business Startup of the Year globally. So that's where we are today, a year later, okay? So that's the reason I'm back at work. So now go back to Preston on how it started, because he's the one that's helped make this all happen. He was the founding dealer, the founding member of the company. So I suppose Preston deserves the credit for that.
I appreciate it, Phil. So it started because of my experience. It started in the packaging space, and explaining to Phil kind of how stagnant the industry was. As the title says, the industry technology left behind. And so you have these massive public companies working on really old computer systems, lots of email, faxes, and mailing, and it just the two just don't work together. On top of that, there's a lot of competitive stress and pressure, and so these are all the things that instinctively just didn't feel right to me. But I didn't understand the opportunity for disruption. So the business really started with me explaining to Phil the industry, and convincing him to back me and go in full speed on this business so we can create a packaging business. And then kind of with Phil's guidance, we figured out pretty quick that packaging is great and we can disrupt the industry, but there's a real opportunity for a full marketplace. So now Packform has grown and developed into what's a full marketplace. So things where, kind of like Amazon for business to consumer, Packform is business to business, and it's creating that marketplace to buy and sell more efficiently than others have done it in the past.
Yeah, today it's no longer, we're actually going to be changing our name to Xform rather than Packform, because you can buy ball bearings, you can buy freight, you can buy anything globally. We've got geo mapping in the system. So all we're doing is basically building a marketplace for customer and supplier, but the big difference is we do it through a dealer network because they already have their own clients. So we don't have to search for clients. And all we're doing is making them a lot more money. We're making customers savings, and we're building a true marketplace. And you can basically buy anything through this marketplace.
So this sounds like when we talk about business models in class, we spend some time on how the internet has disintermediated, that we've taken out the middleman and we've connected buyer to seller. It sounds like you've done the opposite. It sounds like you found a role for that middleman where there's a value proposition for everybody involved. Can you talk about the role that the dealer plays and why the buyer and seller continue to see them as valuable?
That is a great question, Preston. Probably the best way is for you to talk about life before and now. The amount of people.
Absolutely. And on that business model point, Mike, when Phil and I were looking at how we were going to structure the business, and the business model is everything, we did think maybe this is something where we go direct to consumer, and how does that look? And if we build the technology so it's just a full marketplace and you eliminate that from the equation, kind of like you said, what does that look like? But I realized from my time in the industry that the value of the relationship meant something in the packaging space. So we built the model to include that. But what we've done is eliminated the high overhead distributors that dominate the space today, where just so much of that cost goes to cover overhead. So that's how we built up the model, and we're able to operate the same services, same products, faster speed, so on and so forth, at just a much reduced cost because it's technology driven.
Okay. And how do you decide what to add?
The old days.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah. So in my previous life at the public company, so much of that time, probably 80-90% was spent doing, and this is in the sales channel, right? So much of my time was spent doing administrative tasks. So it was filling out reports and spreadsheets and doing all this stuff to kind of report the numbers to the business, and then very little trying to grow the business. So the way we built Packform is there's really no need for that. And if you can automate those portions so they happen automatically through technology as opposed to manually through people driving it, then you can get a much more streamlined business. So that's at the core of what we did with Packform was really free up that distributor's time from administrative to growing sales and helping customers find solutions, so on and so forth. And then that's just catapulted the business.
So we have a question in the chat box. Can you give a definition of what a distributor is to you?
Sure. Well, a distributor
today, or what it'll be next year?
Both.
Preston?
Yeah, obviously distributors buying and selling, but the distributor of the old world would buy products, bring it into a central warehouse, hold it. They would add their markup for the value of buying the products, holding it, covering inventory costs and warehouse and overhead, and then they would sell that product to the product to a customer, including their markup. And that's really the core of what a distributor did. So it was buying in bulk and distributing in units. So what Packform did was we eliminated the need to hold inventory, buy in bulk, and we just connect manufacturer to customer, again, through that dealer channel, and they're able to get the same products and services, but without that kind of pit stop sitting in a central warehouse at a distributor before going to the customer.
Yeah. But if you take that, because that used to be a part of their business, right? The taking ownership of the goods and then reselling them. If you take that away from them, then what business are they in? They're not, because they're not
warehousing
really distributing anymore, right? What's that?
They're in the warehouse and logistics business. That's it.
Warehouse
so we removed the sales component, and a lot of those companies that are the old time distributors are now vendors of ours, and we're over the top of them controlling the sales component, and they're shipping in goods.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was thinking backwards. They hold on to what makes their core business, and you take the stuff away that they
the best way to
don't
explain
do.
it, I might be able to help on this. The best way to explain it is your supplier in packaging, corrugated. There's an enormous oversupply at the moment, where there isn't, there are a lot of machines that aren't running to capacity. So suddenly Packform comes along with its 50 salespeople today, and it's growing every day. And these 50 people all buy through Packform's technology. The supplier suddenly gets 50 salespeople working for them, with probably each salesperson, maybe 2,500 customers that they bring along in this journey. They have one customer called Packform, not 2,500. They have one person to pay the bill. They don't have to manage their sales team. They don't need a sales team. In a lot of cases, we're now 15 to 20% of their entire business. So what's starting to happen now is that suppliers are wanting to come on board because they have an immediate increase to fill up their capacity. And the beauty of our model is if they're running at capacity, they just don't quote. If they're not running to capacity, they will do anything to get our business because they want to run at capacity, even if it means they make no money on that extra 5 or 10% of capacity. So Packform is sitting in the perfect position of support. We want the more suppliers on our platform, the happier we are, whereas most companies want to reduce the number of suppliers they have. So if you look at the industry dealers, a year ago, no one wanted to join Packform. All the salespeople. Today, we've got one company which has 1099 contractors. We've got 30 applications from contractors from the one company wanting to join because they can just move their business from one company to the other, make a lot more money, not have any contracts. They can do whatever they like through the platform, sell whatever they like. So it's a very different world today. The ones that are smart, that are getting on board, are basically their own business. We can buy their business one day, whereas at the moment they work as an independent contractor and no one's going to buy that. So, the whole shift in paradigm shift has been enormous, far more than I expected. I mean, usually by now I've sold out of the business.
Yeah.
This business, we're going to an IPO, and everyone that's in the business today is going to be a shareholder in the IPO. So I'm not going anywhere, which is at this stage with the market cap of 100 million already today.
Yeah.
We can't even work out what the market cap's going to be in 12 months from now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Talking language that some of you, the entrepreneurs in there, will know what a market cap is. But, you know, for us, this business hasn't even started, whereas normally I'm already selling at this level.
Yeah. Interesting.
I'm curious that I'm not going to open it up to everyone, but does everyone understand what the whole concept of trying to build your market capitalization of the value of your business? Do they learn that in entrepreneur school?
We talk about the value of the business, market cap, more of a publicly traded market kind of term when you get to IPO.
Yeah, which is where we're going, obviously.
Yeah.
So, you know, the early, as I call them, the guys that are smart that got on the bus quickly,
Yeah.
are the ones that are all going to be, you know, they're all going to be millionaires for sure.
Yeah.
The ones that are vacillating, well, they're going to miss the bus. So that's our new approach to how we bring on dealers. No one's forcing you to leave where you are, but if you want to come on the bus is leaving. And that's the approach we take now, and it's working.
So I should add right now that if you do have questions, please enter them into the chat box, and we'll try to answer them as we go. We'll have a Q&A at the end, but you don't necessarily need to wait. Maybe we should dig in a little bit to how did you? So Preston, did you start? You started the company?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So it was you know, Phil and I in the beginning, and Phil backing me and giving kind of guidance and advice on starting up a business. And it was a packaging business, distribution business. So and you know, Phil's able to see that far down the road to see the value and then pivot and adjust it, which we did pretty quickly.
Okay. So did you raise money yourselves, or did Phil provide the seed capital, or did you go to venture capitalists? How did you raise the money? Yeah,
it's all privately funded. So Phil has the majority in there, and I have the minority, and there's a few others, and we grew it from there. And the beauty of Packform is we were profitable day one. So it took some initial, you know, capital, but we made money the first day, and you know, we became cash flow positive immediately. I mean, it was an instant success.
How did you do that? It's unusual. It's not unprecedented, but how did you do that?
So Mike, that's a great question. In 17 startups, this is the first one that was profitable. I mean, today just to give you an idea of the power of the platform, the industry average in packaging is between 3 and 5% EBITDA. Again, if I'm talking a language that some of you don't, you know, know, EBITDA is the profit you make. Most companies in the packaging make between 3 and 5% on their sales. We're making 17%. Right. So we're profitable, cash flow positive from day one. So from my point of view, putting up the money, and it's no secret, I put in $4.5 million. I'm getting interest on my investment day one. I'm getting returns day one. I'm quite happy to keep putting more in if we need to, but the problem is we don't need more money. So we're not looking to raise any money. And the only reason we would go to an IPO is to reward all those people that are in, the dealers, the people in the business. We want them to have a share in the business. So that would be the only reason. It's not to raise money.
So your dealers also have equity as well?
No, they don't now, but they will with an IPO, because you have to understand that they have their own independent business, and that business is valuable. So unlike being an employee or even being a subcontractor for another company, we will buy their businesses if we need to buy businesses. So they're guaranteed of a return, because we're prepared to buy their business at an agreed multiple, right? Whereas in most situations, and I don't know how many people are contractors today or subcontractors, but no one's going to buy a one-man business.
Right.
Yeah.
But we will, because we will give them shares in the float in exchange for their business, which means they have an opportunity to grow their asset while they're building their own business.
So they go from essentially a mom and pop business to owning a piece of a high growth tech startup that's going to IPO. And
spot on. Spot on.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah, it's a good case study. Having
that's
done
very innovative. Yeah.
having done many talks to MBA programs, I would love to do a case study on this business because I'm pretty proud of what this company's achieved in less than a year of full operation.
Yeah. So we have in the chat box from the dean of our School of Management, a gentleman who should understand all of this. Dr. Apfeltaler, he said it almost sounds like a co-op model, right? Where you build this cooperative of people with common interests, roll them all up, but they all kind of have an ownership. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
yes, but the beauty of our model is you can co-opt in or co-opt out. We don't hold you accountable for, if you don't like being a dealer,
Yeah.
your business, you can move out. But at the end of the day, we haven't had one person in the history of our company actually leave the company. So we must be doing something right with our dealers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're kind of, the industry typically consolidates. So everyone, the bigger players are buying up the smaller players. We're doing the opposite where we're decentralizing it. So it's giving a lot of power back to the individual players and it's shifting the way the industry works.
Yeah.
In fact, our M&A group now are looking to buy businesses with 100, 200, 300 million dollars of turnover in the old distributor model, where we can take over the sales, clean out the whole cost structure, and then build the turnover that way. We've got the means and the funds to go and buy existing, businesses making 3% and turning them into 17% profit.
Exactly.
So Gerhard sent a follow-up. The dean is usually the person who knows the least. So I know Gerhard well. I can attest that is not true. So now the questions are rolling in. So I'm going to kind of go through these one by one, and they'll maybe be a little bit at random. So AJ asks, how big of a concern is your environmental impact? Packaging is one of those. It's one of those industries where we now see all the boxes that show up at our doorstep, and hopefully most of us put it in the recycle bin to be reused again. But how do you look at your environmental impact?
That's a great question, Phil. If you don't mind, I'll handle that one. So it's huge. Obviously, packaging is an enormous part of waste. It creates a lot of waste. There's also a lot of opportunity for doing biodegradable products, environmentally friendly, compostable. So we put a lot of effort into that. Part of the effort we put was building our technology. So as we onboard our supply chain, we have a way to designate the suppliers that are environmentally forward, and we can adjust that how it comes up in our system, which is great because then we can promote that as a business, and also through strategic partnerships. There's an article that I wrote probably a month ago that comes up on just packaging and the environment and what it means and how we can all impact it positively. And so we seek out partners as well that we can team up with in the packaging space to really push that forward. We have some work that's pending currently, so I can't discuss it yet, but there's going to be some really great strategic partnerships that we're going to announce that are just really exciting, specific to the environmental space.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, next is how do you create? Let's first let's ask the inevitable question: how is the pandemic affecting your business, either positive or negative? And how are you preparing to be stronger coming out of the pandemic than you were going in?
Another great question. And Phil, if you don't mind, I'll jump in on the beginning of it. The pandemic was honestly the best thing that happened to us. It could have happened. So our model is purposely asset light. And overnight we kind of recognized that the world was changing really quickly. So we were able to shut down the offices, move over to remote work. The system works the exact same from someone working from their home as it does in an office with a bunch of people. So that part was very easy. And then because we're technology based, where we're connecting suppliers and customers, we're operating so much faster, and the world has shifted in that direction. So our model, I felt, was already very sound pre-COVID, but now post-COVID, it's even better because the whole world is changing to want to have technology and ease and order online and not have to go to a big warehouse or pick up products or do that sort of stuff. And then concurrently to our competitors who operate with the old model, COVID hit and they have massive warehouses full of massive amounts of stock. And then overnight, everything turned off. People couldn't work in there. They weren't shipping products. So now they're holding all that inventory. And it really created a bottleneck in their business, whereas we don't hold any inventory and operate without huge overhead. And we shifted immediately. We just pivoted into this new business, and we've become more profitable throughout COVID.
I think also from a human element, our company is run like a family. There's some basic rules. That's why no one ever leaves us. When the COVID hit, while everyone else was going to furlough, and I suppose I made the decision to put the money in. Not one person was let go. We wore everybody's salaries. We didn't expect the boom where we can't get the funding because we're actually making money and growing. But when we first started, it was a big risk. Do we start reducing staff? Do we put people on furlough? I made the decision that every single person in the company's got a job and I'll just wear it. Fortunately, didn't have to, but I think that was such a big, big thing in the company that everyone knew while their friends were sitting in the unemployment lines. They were all having jobs without any work to do. And I think that was a major turning point in the success of this company, where not one person got furloughed.
And admirable.
Yeah. So today we're putting on a person a day around the world. People are coming on board. If we haven't got jobs for them, we create jobs, but we know we're going to need them. So we're now hiring on ability and potential rather than there's a definite need for someone on that moment.
So let's, I heard you say you run the business like it's a family. So let's talk a little bit about culture and what culture means to your business. I know if I ran a business like my family, it wouldn't be in business for very long, especially my extended family. So talk a little bit about what the most important cultural underpinnings are of the business that are most important.
Why don't you grab that, Phil, and I'll jump in.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think about that. Actually, I haven't discussed that with you.
Well, okay, I'll start. So it's definitely a family culture, right? I came from a corporate culture, a little more on the stale side, a little less real, and then you jump into this entrepreneurial culture where you're all in it. It's everyone else is going a different direction, and you're doing something completely opposite. So it's very much an us against them, which is good because it binds you all together. And the part that I appreciate is it's very raw, it's very real. There can be some tense moments, but that's a good thing. It's bringing us all together, and through that kind of adversity, we're achieving huge success. So for me, it's so much more exciting than something where you don't get the raw information. And you feel like you're part of a family. Everyone's kind of building it together, and you're all in it to win it.
Yeah.
So if I can add to that, the best way to describe it, someone asked me actually yesterday. So when you lead a company, how do you know people got your back? So I equate it to a family, and I'm looking around. All of you have families. The only people I know that have my back completely is my family, right? If things go bad, I know I can rely on them, especially during this COVID period where we're isolated, certainly in Australia where we're not allowed to leave our house. And you learn very quickly about leadership. So when I was asked the question, I said, well, when I lead in the front. I never have to look to my right or my left or behind me. Now, in order to have that sort of ability, you have to have complete faith in the people in your company. And I can say categorically, and Preston would know this in comparison to working in a corporation, he knows I never ever look to my left or right or behind. I'm only looking in front. And now I'm starting to teach the people that were there from day one to be able to feel that they've got people covering their backs. And the amount of time we save in trying to look forward rather than the left and the right and behind is what makes us so unique and why we're growing at this rate.
So that also implies a tolerance for failure, right? Too, yeah.
Good for all you entrepreneur students. I say I would rather make 100 decisions a day. I get 60 right and 40 wrong, but I make 100 decisions. Yeah. The ones that make one decision and get it right, to me, is a failure. Yeah. Because unless you're making decisions and learning, and I mean, the best way to, again, I get asked all the time, so how do you grow so fast? And I said, we don't build a car. What we do is we start off by building a skateboard. And as we build a skateboard, someone realizes, hold on, what happens if I fall off? I need to grab something. So we say, oh, we better put a handlebar on it. So we build a handlebar. And then we go, well, how do we make it go faster? Well, maybe we need a pedal. And that's how all my startups from day one till today has worked. Packform even faster than most. And that's how we build. We just build. We have, for anyone working in technology, we have what we call weekly iterations, which means every week we have an update to the entire community, Packform community, on what we've uploaded into the technology on a weekly basis. For those of you that work in a corporation, you would know that's impossible. For those of you that work in startups, probably impossible. But in Packform, weekly iterations, because even the developers are in the same journey as we are, and they are now trained to be on deadlines, which most people would know developers are not happy about deadlines. Everyone wants to build a rocket ship, whereas we want to build a skateboard. So I think that explains the culture of our company. And I'm really not trying to play this up, because that is the way it works. And anyone on this call that, I can't see anyone from Packform on the call, but anyone that works in our company would know weekly updates is what makes us the way we're going.
Yeah. When we teach entrepreneurship, we call the skateboard a minimum viable product.
Yeah, exactly.
And Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn and a core team of PayPal, he'll say, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, then you've waited too long to release it.
That is really, I'm going to use that. That's great, a great quote. And the truth is, you're right. I'm always embarrassed. Preston I'm never happy.
Correct.
No matter what we do, Preston Sumpsis will say to me, give me a go, give me a break. And I'm saying, but why? Why would I give you a break? You're not, if you're happy with what you've got, and I don't mean this personally, if you're happy with what you've got, we will fail.
Yeah.
We will fail because we'll get lazy and fat like everyone else, and we're going to end up failing like everyone else seems to be doing, other than the 1% of the world that's actually growing. Yeah. I'm never happy. It doesn't mean I'm not proud of everyone, but I'm definitely never happy with what we've got.
Another defining characteristic of entrepreneurs.
Yep.
Yeah. True.
So we have a question from Joyce Soriano McDowell. You mentioned technology. How long did it take you to build that minimum viable product, the technological part of it? And how did you go about building it?
Yeah, well, for the minimum viable product, it was, I don't know, Phil, what would you say? Something that was, $1 through the business operating was probably 6 to 12 months. Part of that was slowed by a partnership early on that we tried to do with a corporate, and it's one person's walking, the other person's sprinting. It just didn't work. So that's part of what slowed up the build. But I remember day one when we were running that first dollar through the business, to Phil's point, thinking, holy cow! I mean, I can operate through this, but man, is it tough. It's required a lot of work. And you see that, and then every week you're just fixing things, they're becoming smoother. The beginning, I remember, some of the early people that were on board with our business, my wife's bringing them lunch every day so they could just work right through lunch and, get everything completed. It took an army to manage what's relatively small amount of sales, but it's because the business was, like Phil said, a skateboard. So we're getting the minimum product out there. We're delivering to customers, but man, it was like, it took an, act of everybody to get that delivery. And then everything just starts moving faster. And obviously even today, we're not happy with where we're at, but things run pretty well. Things deliver, they go all over the world, and it's, and the technology is doing what it's built to do.
Do you have an in-house tech team, or is any part of it outsourced?
So the tech team reside in Russia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Australia, no one in America. I mean, the whole American business, you won't believe, we have 3 full-time people in America. The rest of the world, the rest of the team is in Australia, the Philippines, all admin is in the Philippines. It's a low-cost technology that doesn't require people to run it.
So this is truly a global business.
Well, we're now in Geneva. To give you an idea, we set up in London in 2 weeks.
Yep.
We got a couple of dealers. We set up the technology in London, put on 40 suppliers in the first week, and we're running in 2 weeks. It's not a business that requires all my other businesses that went global required me on a plane to go and set up each office all over the world. We don't have offices. We don't need them. It's a very different world today. And to be honest, people, around, certainly in Australia, were asking whether I created the pandemic, just because it flew straight into our strength, which is totally. And the thing is that I'm not sure how many know in America, when we first started, Preston said no one's going to log on to the technology from our customers. They don't use computers. They work on faxes. Today, there's been in America an 80% uplift in technology use. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal what's happening in America now, where virtually there's no one we have as a customer that doesn't want to use our technology. Whereas 8 months ago, Preston said it won't happen. They're never going to log on.
Yeah.
So it's a different world.
Evolution. Yeah.
Okay, so this next question, I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit. It's from Rochelle, and it's about independent contractors, about 1099 employees. And this is the state of California has kind of made itself a battleground for the treatment of independent contractors versus permanent employees. What's your opinion about hiring permanent employees versus hiring contractors?
There is no legal difference for us. It's a right to work state.
Yeah.
If someone wants to leave their company, as long as they do the right thing, and we have in-house legal counsel, we spend a lot of time with each person making sure they do the right thing.
Yeah.
The only difference for me between a 1099 and an employee is a 1099 is already left being an employee, so they understand that they need to hunt for their own food.
Yeah.
So they're far more, what's the right word? They're far easier to bring on because they already hunt.
Yeah.
The ones that work with the security of a job, and please don't misunderstand, we fund people who leave companies because we know that it takes a while for them to transition. So we offer them a dealership rebate upfront in order to settle in. But a 1999 settles in from day one. They already know what it is not to get paid a salary.
Yeah.
So in California and all the right to work states, it makes no difference. But we're now opening up all over America, and we're finding the 1099s are so easy. They're generally not happy working as a 1099 within a distribution company because, to be honest, they're getting screwed with all their overheads, because as you all know, the cost of running a distribution business is much higher, and the owners pass that cost on to the 1099 contractors, whereas we don't. So I hope I answered the question. There is no difference for us, but I find 1099 people are the ones that just settle in from day one, and we're now focused on 1099 contractors.
Okay, thank you. So we've got a few more questions. They're rolling in now. I want to make sure we can get to all of them. This one was asked privately. Besides packaging supplies, what other types of products are you looking to include in the supply chain? You already mentioned ball bearings, but what else goes on the platform?
Well, we now have dental products. Basically, again, our model is if you've got a competitive marketplace and you got people who have clients, we will cut out the middleman, which is the distributors, and we will sell whatever they want to sell because it makes no difference. We're now selling freight. So we can go, when we have to deliver from point A to point B, we'll go out to 5 freight companies for a $50 freight bill. It makes no difference to us.
Doesn't take any more time. Yeah.
It's just the system is becoming so intelligent that it already knows that if you're in a 5-mile range, here are the 5 freight companies that would be able to deliver for you. If you're in a 20-mile range, here are the 12 freight companies that can deliver for you. It makes no difference what the product is. And that's why I'm saying, you're first to hear this. We've made a decision to change the name. Yeah. And we're going to be offering any 1099 that sells machinery can now sell packaging, printing, anything. It makes no difference.
Yeah, it's really anything with a buy and a sell is what we're built for. And so now that we've seen the vertical work really well in packaging, now we're opening it up to be a true marketplace.
It's almost sounds a little bit like Alibaba.
So, Alibaba with better organization and probably better vetted vendors. And so things, obviously I'm a little biased, but I feel like that you know what you're getting, everything's vetted, it runs smoother, where it's pretty reliable.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be really interesting, talking about our history. When we first started, and Preston had just started, he had an order for a box of tape, and he couldn't get anyone to supply us because no one knew who we were. So we went into Alibaba in China. We ordered a box of tape. We had it delivered in, 5 days to the customer's warehouse.
Yeah.
Selling it at the price that he had to pay for it in America. So where Alibaba and Amazon are great is for individual one-off sales. Where we excel is if you need to buy 10 products, which businesses do buy, if they go to Alibaba, they're going to have to probably go with 10 different suppliers, 10 different deliveries. With Packform, our system is that intelligent that it knows how to break up the order to be able to find the supplier that can supply the whole lot and deliver the whole lot in one delivery and one invoice. And that comes from having our geniuses, our dealers, being in the middle, whereas Alibaba and Amazon don't have the human element that we have.
So
Correct.
for anyone who's, go ahead, Preston.
I was going to say, I remember an early meeting that Phil and I had where he one thing I noticed early on was he sought a lot of advice from people in the space. So quickly he became an expert in packaging by talking to people that already did it. So we had a meeting with a pretty affluent guy in Australia that owns, large global packaging businesses. And as we were explaining our model and here's how we're doing it, what we're building, he said, what you really need to do is become the aggregator on top of the distributors, right? So then you're building all those goods, shipping it from one source, delivering it in, and by doing that, you're sitting on top of everybody else. So I never forgot that. Phil, I know you didn't, because that was kind of an aha moment when we adjusted the system to account for that, and that's what we have today.
He's the wealthiest family in Australia, and a very successful, probably one of the largest manufacturers in America. And I'll never forget his words. He said, "Why are you wanting to be a warehouse?" He said, "Let all these people with big overheads kill each other, and all you'll do is sit there and pick off the best of all and let them all fight for your business." That was singly the greatest advice anyone's given me, because what it meant when the virus hit and we had people defaulting on all their stock, we were sitting there with no stock, no real commitments to anyone. And we had all these distributors ringing us saying, "Can you please take some of our dead stock?" So it was probably the single best advice we got from anyone. And we never forget that.
Just to tie back to Phil, your discussion about market cap. I looked it up while we were talking. The market cap of Alibaba is $814 billion.
Well, just to put it in perspective, in America, the packaging market that we know in the distribution market is 50 billion, right? Just do your numbers. We are making 3 to 4 times the industry average in a startup, which is unheard of. And I can say that I would love all the students to do the research and find a tech startup that's profitable in its first year, that's self-funding, and you'll understand why we're working in this business as passionately as we are.
Yeah. Okay, next question from Kim Terry. Can you talk a little bit about your revenue model and how it's changed over time?
Wow, there's some good questions. Is Kim a student?
I don't think so.
Wow, great question. Preston, if you don't mind, I can answer that.
Go for it.
The business started with the dealer model, and everyone now knows how the dealer model works. Over the last 3 months, we've started to get billion-dollar spend corporates like Vodafone who are saying, well, at the moment, there's a company called, I'm not sure if anyone's heard of Ariba. They're one of the largest procurement tools that's owned by SAP. They're saying there's got to be a better solution. Why can't we use your technology to buy and cut out the middleman and just buy direct from your supply chain? So we're now starting to change our revenue model for those corporates with a spend of more than 60 million. We're now offering our technology directly to them to use in their procurement department to build their own supply chain and tendering for all products, not just as we call the tail spend, but their entire spend, whether it be insurance, freight, electricity, whatever it might be. They can run tenders on our system. So we're now changing our model to one, the dealer model, where it's a very simple, we buy, we sell, we pay the bills, the dealer gets their rebates at the end of the month. The revenue's taken up in Packform. The payments are made by Packform to a SaaS model, software for service, where we get paid a percentage of what goes through the platform.
Yep.
Okay.
But that was a great question, I must say.
It's it's a good business model. That's the toll booth business model.
I call it the rent roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what have we got next? We've got a question from Saba Farutan. Let's start. One is a follow-on about the culture question. So there's obviously a relationship between you, Preston, and you, Phil. Is that mentor-coach relationship? Do you carry that to the rest of the culture? Is that a part of the way that you develop your talent?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, in our business, when we bring on additional folks, there's lots of mentors within our organization. So, Phil is kind of the mentor of the mentors, and then it keeps growing as we bring on additional people, and that's what keeps our culture intact. And still, today, Phil and I operate in two completely different countries. Everything is through technology, but we still catch up all the time, running things off each other. I'm learning a lot about the life of an entrepreneur. And picking up as much as I can and kind of adjusting into that model. And then it's rewarding for me, I'm sure too for you, Phil, to watch additional folks come into the business that are learning this whole new world. It's a whole different thing. And so we have the folks teaching the new folks exactly what our culture is all about.
I'm not sure if you're teaching this in the entrepreneurial college, but we work in tribes. So what happens is in Australia, the people that directly work for me have all worked for me in previous startups. So the way I work is I don't believe any leader can have more than 5 people working with them. Once you get past 5 people in your team, you tend to lose your energy. So what we do is I spend my time teaching the 5 most trusted, loyal people that I have from previous companies, and then I send them off to set up their own teams. So for example, you could be working for me and then tomorrow I say, okay, we've already got 5 in our team, go and build a new team, and you find 4 other people. And then you anoint a new person to take over what you're doing. And we build from 5 to 25, and it just expands. So it's got to the point now where I don't need to mentor anyone starting, because the people that they're starting with are mentoring them in the same way that I mentored Preston. So Preston in himself now is becoming his own mentor team for his people. And that's how we managed to grow, because we work in a funnel. I'm not sure if you teach this, but it's called the inverse pyramid, where, in our company, the people talking to customers are at the top of the chain, and I sit at the very bottom, and the only time I get any news is bad news, because it means it's filtering through all the layers, and by the time it gets to me, all else has failed. Whereas in most corporates, the CEOs are God, and then all the children are below them. In our company, the ones that are talking to customers are at the top. They make their own decisions, and I don't care if they fail or not, as long as they make a decision. And then I only hear about things that have gone wrong, and it's failed through them, their mentor, their mentor's mentor. So unfortunately, my life is all about hearing bad things, never good things.
Yeah.
But that's just what I do for a living.
So you've got the last back.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that's what I do. That's why I'm working. It's certainly not for the money anymore. It's for the pleasure of watching people like Preston go from, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this, to now, well, why aren't we doing it? So for me, that is what keeps me up every night, but it also gives me the pleasure to do what I'm doing.
So we've got a few more questions. If anyone who has any more questions, I'm not sure we're going to have time to get to them, but we'll try to get through the ones that we've got in the queue. Can you talk a little bit about the impact of your business model? You used a word that we hear a lot, disruption. And there is a very specific definition of disruption that comes from Clayton Christensen in the Innovator's Dilemma. But when you use that word to refer to yourself, it has implications about what's happened to the rest of the industry. By you unleashing this new business model that operates differently, it typically means you weaken your competition. There are companies going out of business. There are companies that just can't keep up with you because their capital structure is different. Have you seen that? Have you seen the disruption yet, the evidence of the disruption?
Preston, you're day-to-day.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it. So we can already see, a lot of our competitors are public businesses. So it's pretty easy to see exactly how their business is running. It's public information. So you can see the effect that our model is starting to have on those business models that are, a little antiquated. And granted, in the big scheme of the world, a $50 billion segment that we're targeting, we're still minuscule, we're tiny. So, but we're growing very rapidly. We're getting pretty nice write-ups from the people that analyze the industry, Credit Suisse being a big one, and they're understanding that and they sought us out that our business model is disrupting the norm. Here's what it's doing, and here's where we think it's going. So the fact that even the experts are recognizing where our business is going, and we can see the way the industry is going from the companies that release information, lets us know. And thirdly, the suppliers. I got a supplier today that on LinkedIn sent me the nicest message. I haven't met him before, but he just said, "I love what you guys are doing. This is fantastic. Suppliers love it. It's getting rid of all the stuff we don't need. It's allowing us to sell our products." So, those three things, you see that and you think, okay, we're onto something right. We've got the right model in the right place at the right time.
Excellent. So, okay. So the next question is about competition. Do you worry at all about Amazon and Alibaba deciding, well, thank you very much, Packform, for identifying this business for us. We'll take it from here. We're going to get into the business, lower our prices, and run you out of business. Do you worry about that?
No, we welcome it because it means we become more authentic and more just. Listen, there's a big world out there. We're not trying to compete with Amazon, but Amazon would have to change their entire business model to start bringing people, human capital, into their business. And there's no chance that these large global companies are going to start bringing people on. Yeah. And if they do, then they may come along and want to buy us. So, I welcome it. I keep saying to Preston that you're successful when you're starting, excuse my English, to piss off people. And boy, people want to kill us now. And you know what? We're getting threatening calls from, distributors saying, stop taking our people. You have no right to do it. And, I always say no one leaves when they're happy. Yeah. No one. Yeah. Right? I've never taken one person to work for me that was happy where they were and they left because they were happy. Yeah. There's no such thing. You have to look at why people leave your business. Now, I can say no one leaves our business today because they're happy. Could they make more money somewhere else? Maybe, maybe not, but they've never had this sort of lifestyle. But I'm sure as time goes on and we get bigger and bigger and some people don't get recognized, I still am able to get on a community chat and thank every person. But there's going to come a point in time where some people may not be happy. And if we lose them, my first question will be, it's never over money. That's the first thing I've learned. Yeah. Right? People leave for lack of recognition. And, if people are leaving and coming to Packform, there's only one reason. They think they can have a better life with us. There's no other reason.
Excellent. Okay, so last question. I think this is the last one. If I hope I didn't miss any. How far? And I'm going to paraphrase again too, because I think we covered some of this. So you've talked about IPOing at some point. How far away do you think that might be? And at what point? What are your milestones for? Okay, I think it's time to do that.
That is such a good question. There was a story done. I don't know, it's the equivalent of your New York Times in Australia, the Financial Review. And they were interviewing myself and another founder who is, he built a company called Deloitte Digital to be a $2.5 billion digital agency. He's now a partner in Packform, got to be a global leader. And we were being interviewed. And if you get a chance to read this, it was about 6 months ago when we were still, I think we were only turning over 17 million at that stage. And the interview went to a discussion and debate between myself and this other founder who says, why are we talking about a float? We don't need to float. And I'm saying, yeah, but there's a lot of people that, he says, but we don't need the money. Why would we want to float? And the whole debate in the interview was about what is the right time to float a company. And in our case, it isn't to raise capital. It's to build an ability for the public to be able to buy into this company. And if we do float within the next 12 months, which is on the cards, it probably will be at a very small amount of shares offered. We will control the company still as a majority. Mm-hmm. And what we might do is release 10 or 20% of the company. That's it.
And would you do that in Australia or would you do it in the US?
Well, I don't think it really matters to us. It's a question of where we believe we can get the best value, I suppose.
Yeah.
End of the day, we're in business to build our shareholder wealth. And if the wealth is created in America, then we'll float in America. We find that it's easier in Australia because a micro cap in Australia, in America, is a big cap in Australia.
Yeah. Oh,
Like a
okay.
$500 million market cap in Australia is a good company. In America, it's not even rated. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I would be happy with a $500 million market cap in a float.
Yeah.
So it's very different discussions to have. And it really is what I spend my day thinking about now. Not so much day to day. The business runs itself now. It's more about where is Packform going to go next.
Okay. So I being the moderator, I reserve the last question for myself. And it's for Preston. You started out studying music at Cal Lutheran. I didn't realize that we'd spoken before, but are you a musician, and what instrument do you play?
I am, yeah. So I started on piano at sort of 3, 4, 5, somewhere in that range, young, and then moved over to cello and played that, and even to the CLU orchestra, and then made my decision that I was going to go the business path, not the music path, but still enjoy it as a hobby. It's a great thing to release and relax.
I'm fascinated by musicians as entrepreneurs. There's a link between the two that are really interesting. We talked a little bit about what makes an entrepreneur. There's something about musicians. There's a connection there that needs to be explored.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, well, that hour went by really, really quickly. So, we can't applaud from our respective locations, but you can still you can do it in person, or you can use the little. So, thank you very much to the both of you. That was really fascinating. I am going to do something that I think is a good career move on my end, and leave the last words for my boss, Gerhard Apfeltaler. Gerhard, do you have any parting thoughts? Your window just popped up.
Oh my! Why are you putting me on the spot, Mike? No, I just want to thank both Philip and Preston for being with us today. People like you make us shine. And frankly, I mentioned it earlier. As a business school dean, you're usually the person who knows the least. I think all business school professors depend on people like you to really show us what the possibilities are of business and where it's going. So we learn through you, and thank you for being here today.
Appreciate that. Yeah, pleasure. And thanks for having us on. I had a great time.
And shout out to Preston's. Preston's got his mom and dad on the call too. So thank you, Mom and Dad.
Oh, look at that.
I bet they're pretty proud. Can I just say, for all the people on the call, if anyone is interested, I have to make this point, that feel like they want to be an entrepreneur, they are an entrepreneur, they're thinking about the career change or anything, through I don't know if it's through Kristen or through yourself, if anyone wants to get in contact with us, I always welcome people that are ambitious, that feel that they want to have an opportunity to maximize their potential. Please don't be shy to reach out. And as I said, we take everyone very, very seriously.
We will definitely pass that along. Does that include your wife?
Or I was going to say,
just go right to your wife?
That's the best way to do it. Or I was going to say, find us on LinkedIn. We're easy to find.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.